So as you know, today we're going to be talking about all things fraud. So whenever I started in banking like 28 years ago, it was a very rare occurrence. We might occasionally get somebody like a quick change artist come in and scam the bank, or we might get a fake counterfeit check every once in a while. Today, that's not the case. I mean, we see it every single day. We see trends. We've been hit hard in this area. I mean, I think it's hitting everywhere. So it's not necessarily in the big cities. We've seen things like business check fraud. That has been a huge thing. So we're going to talk to you all a little bit more about that. We've seen a lot of, there was a phase of skimmers that were on ATMs, gas pumps. We've been through that. Today, we're even seeing a lot of romance schemes. So there's a lot of customers that fall victim to this all the time. A lot of times it's either widows or sometimes our elderly people are getting lured in on Facebook and things like that. And so we are seeing a lot of those romance schemes out there as well. So I know that you all know that there's fraud going on, but hopefully we've got two speakers here. We've got Ms. Tanya Lynham, who is Senior Vice President of Information Security here at Magnolia Bank. And she's going to be talking to you all about threats that small businesses face today. And then we have Mr. Chris Denham with the Elizabethtown Police Department, and he is the Public Relations Officer. So he's going to be talking to us about what they're seeing on their end in law enforcement and what happens after the fraud occurs. So the steps that they go through in law enforcement. So feel free to ask questions as they're going along. We will have some time at the end too for you all to ask both of the speakers questions. So we'll go ahead and dive right in. So we'll start with Ms. Tanya. Please welcome Ms. Tanya.
Good morning. All right, that'd be me. So, as Amanda said, I am the Senior Vice President here at the bank, and I do information security. So, under my umbrella comes vendor management, right, and incident response. So, when there is an issue between Amanda's group, retail, my side, hi, good morning. Welcome. All right, so a little bit, right, I teach at a college level as well, and I think, I do cybersecurity, I do business and leadership. I'm also a small business owner. I own 2 nightly rentals in Santa Claus, Indiana, and I think the reason that matters is because I understand your pain, right? I am looking as a small business owner for, am I protecting my data? Am I protecting my customers' data when they pay me for something, right? So yes, I work at the bank, but I'm also a business owner who has to protect my customers. Small business owners, get attacked frequently because we have less resources, right? We have less people to help maintain it. How many of you have an information security officer in your organization? So that means you are that individual, right? You are the person protecting that data. 43% of cyber attacks are targeted to small business. When you think about that, these hackers are good. You can't even tell sometimes. They are looking for ways to get into your business, get into your applications. You have limited staff. You have no dedicated staff to protect that. You also use probably outdated software. I mean, I'm just curious, how many of you have looked at the version you're on lately that you're using in your software? Software versions, someone's saying yes. Yay, I'm so excited. I think the goal there, right, is what version are you on? You need to know, because they're sending out patches on a regular basis. Your vendors, whoever you're using for software, if you're using TurboTax or you're using, trying to think of another one. If you're using softwares, those have updates that get pushed out. You need to make sure you're looking at your versions. Have you updated those on a regular basis? That will help protect you because they're doing patches, meaning the developers are developing patches for holes that are within your systems, right? And we want to be sure those are taken care of. How many many of you do cybersecurity training? Yay, again, right? Cybersecurity training, most companies, when you're a small business, it may be 1 to 10 people. You're probably not doing ongoing cybersecurity or robust education and phishing training. Do we know what a phishing attack is? Good. All right, we'll talk a little bit about that in a second too, right? Phishing attacks it could be anything from urgency. We find a lot of people are using the word, oh my gosh, you gotta do this right now. If you don't do it right this minute, everything could fall apart. The other thing is it could be misspelled words. I mean, we get things from the president of the bank on a regular basis here that says, Tanya, I need you to go do this immediately. The likelihood, first off, I know that's not real. Because that is, if she needed me to do something immediately, Dina would call me or send me a message. She sure would not send me an email with a sense of urgency in it. Misspelled words, always look at where the email is coming from and where it's going. Let's see what we've got here. These are in, okay, there we go, sorry. All right, so common ways that attacks happen. We talked about system intrusion, mainly ransomwares. Ransomwares happen right where they lock banks down or they lock governments down. If they can get a hold and come through your system, and the majority of the time the way they're going to get to your system is by someone in your organization clicking a link. Looks real, you think it's real, you click the link, and you probably don't have the intrusion detection systems that like our bank has that will catch that within a few seconds. So it could be days someone could be in your system. They are capturing data you don't want them to have, but they're also able to lock that system down and say, if you don't pay me $2 billion in Bitcoin, for example, which is untraceable, right? Then you can't get your systems unlocked. So it's going to stop your business. It's a reputational risk. All of those things can happen. So making sure, again, going back to understanding. The next was social engineering. We talked about phishing and pretexting, and web application attacks or stolen credentials. I thought maybe we have an example here at the bank, and I asked Amanda on the fly, so she's getting.
I'm used to on the
Yeah. So we had an example here where things were caught, right? Which is a great example of a success story. But also I come from a much larger bank prior, and I had many examples where people were trying to send a wire. President, looks like it's from the president, saying, hey, we need you to send this. But the bank had procedures in place that said, hey, you can't do that without following up by calling in and talking to someone. Although they were constantly sending an email that said, I'm out of the country, you can't call in there to get approval, you have to do it this way versus this, right? It saved that customer about $200,000 going out of the country that we couldn't have retrieved. Saved the bank because from a reputational risk, that could be big. I thought maybe, Amanda, do we have time? Yeah, I think we do. Do you have time to kind of walk through this example? We can talk about it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we had a really great customer of ours who I felt was very much on top of things, and they did not realize, but they had been hacked, their emails. So what this fraudster did was stayed behind the scenes for quite some time and then started reaching out and emailing. So for example, they sent an email that looked like it was from that person. They actually went out there, it had like the title of the person, everything looked legit, just like it really would. And they asked to add like signers on their accounts. And so they were going out there and targeting all of her contacts, like one at a time. And the whole time they had no idea this was occurring. The way we were able to stop it is luckily, we do have good controls in place. So anytime we get a request from a customer through an email, like I need you to send this wire, or I need you to change this, we're also going to be picking up the phone and calling you. And luckily, we have a good relationship with most of our customers and we know them. So we're not just gonna act on, an email. We can pick up the phone, call, text, other methods. But this was a customer that was very much on top of it. still to this day don't really know how they got in there, but we think maybe it was possibly just a phishing attempt where someone went in and clicked on a link, but they were able to get a lot of information. And obviously what comes next is not fun, the next steps of what all they had to go through to get that taken care of.
Right, because, or you want to go right ahead.
Well, so just, you mentioned text, and in a previous role of mine, somehow the bank got spoofed from a texting standpoint also.
Mhm.
So they're pretending that they were me and texting the bank, and it wasn't actually me. So not only did they spoof my email address, but they also.
They did them both at the same time?
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
So they did
Yeah.
that for a confirmation of sending the wire. And so, yeah, so just to make you all aware of that and everyone else. So not even a text
Yeah.
is.
It is scary
is-
how
yeah, it
good
was-
they are.
Yeah, it was scary because it was a big number and they called me and said, hey, what's going on? After they found out, thankfully, the IT guys figured out pretty quickly that the email that was from me wasn't, but they also did the text confirmation. So more reason to pick up the phone and confirm.
Yes, yep.
And I'll back that up, right? The other piece is we educate our customers when things like that happen, right? Or if a family member says, hey, this was happening at my work and the IT department caught it. The problem is now you may have other folks, like they were going out to this individual's contacts. Someone could be clicking at another company in there and then they're being hacked as well, right? So you're spreading it, it's going, and they think it's from you. They don't know, and it's usually small business to small business, right? That's what we do. We want to stay in contact with folks. So I think, knowing what's going on and knowing how to protect it, and then following back up with those folks after the fact and saying, hey, something happened, right? Ownership of what has happened is important, right? And owning there was a problem and we fixed it, but we don't want you to have the same issue. So use caution. So how do we mitigate some of these, attacks? I do this at high schools, colleges, when I'm like, how many of you use the same password on everything, right? Right? So if you're using the same password, so you remember on every account you have, if they get in one, they'll be in everything you have. They will get into every account you have. And if they happen to get into your computer and they know you're getting into your digital electronic banking, and then maybe you have a trust account somewhere else, and maybe you have your business account over here, but you're using the same passwords. They now have access to everything. You need to be using different passwords on every account. You need to be sure your employees, if you have them, are using different passwords on every account. You need them to be changing them on a regular basis. I would recommend 8 to 12 characters. I would recommend capital, lowercase, number, special character. And it should not be, we test here at the bank all the time. Don't use your kid's name, because people know this information, right? They can go find this information out. So make sure it's something that you know. The problem is, right, our complaint all the time is, oh my gosh, I can't use it for 10 times, the same password for the next 10 times. And I've got to change it every 90 days. And I've got 20 accounts. How am I supposed to remember all of that, right? Maybe, and don't write them down. Don't leave them on your desk. I mean, I don't know if you've watched movies lately where people go in and they're trying to hijack and they're digging on people's desk and looking through the drawers because they just know the password's hid somewhere there, right? So that's one. The other is user access privilege. Again, how many of you have more than one employee? Okay. So when we talk this one kind of in a small business is interesting because you tend to just sign people up in your business accounts or in the accounts they have access, and you give them whatever you have. You just give them access, right? The goal with this one is the principle of least privilege, meaning, give an example here at the bank. If you're a teller at the bank, they should not have admin access to get into our core system and change everything about a customer. They should only have access to do what they need to do for their job, right? So we monitor that with user access reviews based on the risk of the application. Again, vendor management falls in my world. We do those either on a quarterly, every 6 months, or an annual basis, depending on the risk of that application. And then teaching consistently on understanding phishing and email. Alerts, texts, don't click on things you should not be clicking on. So then, how many of you are using Positive Pay? Okay, a few of you. So, Positive Pay, there are benefits. We've implemented it here at the bank. It's a new feature that, I don't know, how many months has it been going? 6 months maybe?
Been around a long time, yeah.
It's been around.
Yeah.
So the great thing about Positive Pay is, it's gonna look when something comes through, it's an extra layer. It's gonna check your customer, your logins to see, it's gonna see your logins, it's gonna check numbers. It's gonna do an extra check to be sure it understands, is that someone you normally pay? And it's gonna check that payee, right? Because let's think about it. Stephanie gave me an example when I asked her yesterday. She said, well, a customer didn't realize something was coming through the bank. It has the check number, right? You go in and you reconcile your account. It's the right check number, but you have a payee, a vendor that says you did not pay them, right? But then when you actually open the check and look at the image, the payee has been changed. That is what is happening. We're seeing that, right? That's happening. People are taking checks and they're great at doing it and they don't realize it, and it comes through and it gets all the way through and that gets paid to the wrong person. This is an extra way to stop fraud. The bank offers it. If you're not using it, doing a plug here, right? I would highly recommend talking to someone, because you have to actually enroll in that. You have to sign up for it. We do offer it free for a few months if you want to try it out. It's a great avenue. So, again, from my standpoint, cybersecurity, IS security, making sure passwords are controlled, your folks understand what a phishing email is, consistently making sure least access privileges are there, making sure you're educating on those items, and then thinking about anything you can do that makes things safer and more secure on your end. Meaning less work for you to monitor, Positive Pay being one of them. If it's already going through, it's doing an extra layer of checking on your behalf. Questions you might have for me?
Do you recommend password managers? And if you do, which one do you like?
We do Keeper.
Okay.
And that's because I vetted it as a vendor already. I still get cringy with them, right? I try not to do that, even personally with my own, because even if I vetted that vendor, a vendor can get hacked, right?
And do get hacked.
Have
a device that's not online, that
Yeah.
is exclusively offline, and store the data on that device. That's
I
that's
just wanted to
foolproof and safe.
recommend to the employees what they can do, so.
Yeah, and we approved it because we wanted to have control over where our employees were at least putting things that we knew, right? We want to be sure that we vetted that vendor and that they haven't had cyber breaches, and we understand the reputational risk, and we understand, are they being audited with a SOC document and they've got all the security controls we want? And not everyone has it. I think it depends on how many passwords you have too. People ask on a personal level all the time. Again, if you can put it on a device that isn't online, it's the pick. But we wanted something because our fear was people were writing it down. And that's what's happening, right? I mean, let's get serious. People are writing them down and they are carrying them around in their bags. So yeah, I highly recommend finding a way to protect those. Other questions? I'm happy to, if you think of something, by all means, happy to do that or follow up. Did we do all right on time?
Yep, perfect.
All right, thank you all.
Thanks, Tanya. That's a lot of good information. So next up, we have Chris Benham.
All right, so I'm gonna be able to streamline mine. Usually
I would start with an exercise to identify the oldest person in the room, but I see Doug Estes back there. So we figured that out really easy. Hey, so I've been about 21 years in law enforcement. I'm actually retired and back. Didn't really have plans to do that. I thought I would move on to greener pastures. However, I'm too dumb to learn to do anything else, and they welcomed me back, so here I am. I spent some time in patrol. I was a training officer. I was a detective. I was on the U.S. Secret Service Task Force for financial crimes, and now my role is public affairs, predominantly just interacting with the public and educating the public on our daily operations, crime trends we're seeing, things of that nature. Everyone in here has more extensive knowledge in terms of business operations than I do, so please don't feel that I'm talking down to you. I'm just simply going to share just common trends that we're seeing. And she touched on a lot of these, but email fraud, as someone said, the suspect, they impersonate a colleague or a supervisor in that role. When I was a detective, a local bank here had a customer who many of you know. He conducted a lot of business out of state, and someone hacked his email and wired $250,000 to New York, and it went. She called me. We were actually able to recover it, which is highly, highly unlikely. Usually once it's gone, it is gone. But it was a very convincing email. It was so convincing, pretty sure the hacker had been watching him for a while. Like, they were so in tune with how he was operating. It wasn't just a on the cuff thing. I mean, these folks, they're not fools, right? I mean, they're very aware of what they're doing. They're very good at what they do and would be capable of making a lot of money in a legitimate industry, but unfortunately probably not as much as what you're seeing in fraud. She said check fraud and altered checks, outgoing checks. If you mail your checks, if you're mailing a check to someone knows your routine, they watch you, they know when you drop it in the mailbox, they come by, they slip it out. Guess what they have? Got your routing number, they have your account number. They can duplicate a check, and very easy to clone your check, and then they can write it to someone. We don't see this as much. I'm not sure if you all are still seeing this in the bank, but there was a time that folks were coming down from Louisville, and they were paying people from a homeless shelter. They'd give them $100, $200 to come down, and they would just send them in to Magnolia Bank, a payroll check on a Magnolia Bank customer. Hey, we'd like to cash this. They're cashing it. They go back, they get in their van. Here's your $200, and away they go with a couple grand in their pocket. Do y'all still see that at all?
There was a big uptick of that, and they were really good. So like if they worked for a painting business, they would come in with paint all over them. If it was construction, they would play the role, talk about the job they were on, all of those things. And I know locally caught a lot of the homeless guy that came into the bank. They were able to catch them, but the person waiting in the car sometimes was the hard one.
And as she said, I mean, there are safeguards to protect to some degree, but at the end of the day, we're saying you protect your passwords, but then we're just handing a random person a piece of paper that has our account number and the bank routing number on it.
And one thing we did see, a lot of our customers were doing the right thing. They were actually taking their mail to the post office, dropping it off. They were doing everything that they could do on their end, but they were mailing that check to a vendor. And that vendor may have been in Louisville or wherever, and then someone was stealing from that mailbox. So, it was really not anything that our customers were doing wrong. They were doing everything they could to protect their information, but it was being stolen on the other end. So that's why it's so much safer to utilize ACH and things like that than mailing physical checks.
But is anyone aware of an organization that potentially couldn't have someone working internally with intent to do wrong? The post office is the same way. Yeah. I mean, we've seen it, right? There are bad people in every group. There are bad cops, there's bad bankers, there's bad postal employees. And what easier way when you're sorting mail to say, oh, Magnolia Bank, every Monday they drop off 1,500 checks. And they know what's in there.
So really a a PO box wouldn't be any safer?
Well, I think it's safer, right? I mean, it's better than just sticking it in your mailbox on the front of your business or at your house. It's better to do that. It's an additional step, but there's no foolproof way to prevent that, right? Because I mean, again, when there's people, there's wrongdoing, and most aren't going to do that. But you still got to stay on top of it and watch for it in case it does happen. Somebody raise their hand. Yes, ma'am.
It was me. I don't know if you remember this, Amanda, but at my former employer, the same thing happened
but I was keeping a very close eye on our checking account. We had a check come through that had the same check number, but I noticed the amount was very far off from what it was actually written for. And fortunately, we got it corrected. But my suggestion is watch your checking account like a hawk, double check amounts, even look at check images to make sure that it is made out to the correct person.
Absolutely. Like, be astute with what she's saying. Me, for example, I use a credit card for everything and pay the bill at the end of the month. Do you think I go through and check my bill? No. Like, when I do, guess what I find almost every time? Fraud. I get an alert on my phone, like every time I turn around, Apple charged you $11.99. Do I know what that's for? No, I have these subscriptions, and I'm not diligent in that. You would think with what I do for a living, what I had done for a living, I would be more diligent. But I don't worry about it or think about it until I get hit with a $1,200 or $1,500 transaction that doesn't seem right. And then I start questioning, and then I look, the same vendor has hit me for $3 or $28, and I don't notice, I don't recognize. So you're absolutely right. Be astute, pay attention. Just what to do if you suspect fraud, report it immediately, all right? If you see something that doesn't look right, you're concerned about it. If you don't have someone internally that operates at your, at management level, contact us. We're happy to look at it with you, talk you through it. Just another set of eyes. Again, not that we have more experience, but we have a different perspective, and perhaps we can talk through it and figure out, no, it's legit, or it's okay, or no, it's certainly not. If you can get into it in the front end of it, it's much easier to resolve than waiting until we're $50,000, $80,000, $100,000 out the window. All right, so please don't feel that you're bothering law enforcement. That is our job. Contact us, please. Also, limit your conversations you're having. I know I just encourage you to consult someone within your organization, but make sure that they have the knowledge base to assist you, and make sure it be beneficial to you to consult them. If you don't have that person, again, law enforcement, private counsel, whomever, but just, you don't need to be, if you're operating at an executive level, you probably don't need to be talking to the line worker about fraud. You need to keep it much tighter knit. If you're not in compliance, if you're working at a mid-level management, you need to be notifying your compliance folks immediately, because again, they have extensive experience. They've seen a lot of these trends that you may not be familiar with, but also they have the ability to hopefully put a stop to it, whether quickly. And everyone knows, if you lose money, the goal is what? To get it back, all right? That's the number one goal. Probably, if you had your choice between losing $100,000 or prosecution, I think probably getting your $100,000 back is gonna be your priority. You wanna see prosecution. Unfortunately, a lot of these, they're so good at what they do. There is a paper trail developed, but it bounces around so far. Identifying a suspect in these is not always feasible. Oftentimes it's not. But getting your money back, the earlier you start, the higher probability you have of getting it back. And again, it prevents further loss. These are just common mistakes that we've already talked about, but delaying notification to law enforcement. So many people try to investigate independently. Don't do that, all right? If you recognize we got a problem, contact law enforcement, contact your financial institution. I've said that like 5 times. I'm gonna say it again, contact law enforcement, contact your financial institution so you don't lose any more money. And it'll prevent, hopefully it'll assist us in getting it back. Don't try to go in and immediately start modifying or altering things on your device in an effort to protect yourself. If they already have your information, they already have it. When you go in and start altering and deleting, guess what? It may delete what we need to track the destination of your assets, or it may eliminate our ability to track them and identify who they are. So please don't do that. I would encourage you, if it's on like a laptop or something, sign it offline if you think it's just intrusion into your laptop, if it's not a full network intrusion. But contact law enforcement immediately. Please don't try to alter that. And as I've already said, don't discuss this with unauthorized parties. There's going to be no benefit to you, no benefit to your organization. So if you contact us, we're going to work with your financial institution. Even if it's not local, if you're dealing with someone out of state, perhaps internationally, we will work with them. We have the ability to obtain search warrants and grand jury subpoenas and access any financial records that we're going to need. Obviously, we're going to need your cooperation, but we have the ability and we have the resources to do that. But we're going to need your help, so please be prepared for that. And we're going to have to go over it's going to be very personal. So if you contact law enforcement, we're going to unfortunately have to know some of your personal business, because we're going to have to identify some of your normal routines and patterns to determine perhaps where the intrusion occurred. If you can, as we said, maintain original records, and by what I mean by that, keep your original documentation. Don't make notes on it. If you realize you've got an issue, don't print all that off and start making notes on it, because that very well may become part of a criminal case file in the future. Okay, and any evidence that you have, please, I've already said, secure it. Secure it, because we will use that in our prosecution. What questions do you have? I know I don't have a lot of time, but I know I just coasted through the, yes, sir.
At what dollar amount does someone step up and say, I'm gonna chase them down?
We don't have one. So if you come in, if you have a $3 transaction, if we can identify a suspect, we'll prosecute.
Okay, so I had a credit card that was duplicated, I guess, and they were making charges in Brandenburg, which is local, and $180-something at a gas station. I don't have 5 trucks that could fill up, that much gas at a gas station, but they've got cameras. Nobody wants to chase that down. I'll chase it down, but then, I want a head on a stick.
And I get it. So there's not a dollar amount. If you come to us, if we can identify, so back to what you said, like a credit card, that has improved some. The credit card skimmers was a problem when it was on the magnetic strip. We now are using chip. We've been using it for 6 years now. Europe's been using chips since they had credit cards. We were way behind the curve on that. I assume you are aware. Basically, the chip re-encodes every transaction, so it's much more complicated. I'm not saying you can't, but it's much more complicated to duplicate. So hopefully that doesn't happen. But as far as a dollar amount, again, if you come to us and you have fraud, I'm speaking on behalf of the Elizabethtown Police Department, we will go where there is surveillance, and if we can get license plates.
I was just told it wasn't worth it.
By who?
The bank.
Well, so here's the thing. The financial institution, they absorb that loss. They now become the victim, and the victim isn't you. And I know that doesn't, personally, you feel attacked, but if a financial institution absorbs a financial loss, they become the victim. And if they don't want to pursue it, then that's their prerogative. But I understand exactly what you're saying.
Typically at the bank, whenever we're dealing with fraud and I'm working with a customer, we always encourage them to file a police report. It may not be something that they're able to track down. You may not really get the result you're looking for, but sometimes it could be like one piece of the puzzle. So you report your small thing and someone else reports that, they can kind of put all of that together and have better results. So it's always encouraged.
Here's another problem. So identifying the source of the compromise is tough, because it's not like, okay, you use it over here at, I don't know, Firestone Tires, and then their system's compromised. So immediately, as soon as I get your credit card information, now I'm gonna clone it, and I'm gonna go to Walmart and buy a bunch of stuff. No, usually what happens is it's compromised 30, 40 days before fraudulent transactions start happening, because it makes it more complicated to identify the source of compromise, number one. Number two, they cross jurisdictional lines, which makes things complicated. So if you get out of county, a little more complicated, out of state, much more complicated. Because then, obviously, if you have a transaction that occurred in Miami, Florida, we've got half law enforcement that's willing to partner with us and assist us in prosecution. And then you get into, you've got multiple crimes. You have the compromise, the network intrusion, the compromise, that's a crime. Then you have the fraud. Problem being, if the charge is being made in Miami, guess what? Guess what jurisdiction that falls under? It falls under Miami. If it occurs in Brandenburg, it's very complex, and that's the jurisdictional issues present problems in that situation.
So do I need to call the bank and have the bank do it, or do I need to call the police department myself? Do I need to call Brandenburg Police Department? What in that situation?
Yes, call all the above. Honestly, like I would call your hometown. Where are you from, E-Town?
Well, we're
Pleasantville.
Okay, all right. Call your local police, call your local bank, and if the local police say, okay, look, the offense is occurring in another jurisdiction, they may refer you to another jurisdiction. But I would start with your local, someone you can face to face with, if that makes sense. And again, I get it, like, it's so frustrating when someone takes your hard-earned damn money and goes and spends
The
it.
bank paid it back,
But it's still, it's personal, like someone took $180 from yours.
point.
We just don't want it to happen again.
I get it.
Keep doing it, they just keep doing it.
No, I get it. I get it. You probably have heard this, but the crime triangle, right? It's opportunity, ability, and desire. You can't do anything about someone's ability and desire to commit a crime, but you can limit their opportunity, and that's your goal. You're never going to be completely safe-proof. fraud's always gonna occur because again, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry worldwide. But just, you have to do your very best at limiting their opportunity. And again, it's 2026, we all use a credit card. We all do online transactions. I mean, I don't go to the store, everything ships to my house. You're at a risk when you do
As
that.
long as we just keep an eye on it.
And catch it early,
And catch it early, yeah.
catch it early. Questions? Doug's back there mad at me, because I call him old.
He's gonna get you back.
He's got that bulldog look to him, you can see, he's smiling, that's just an undercover. All right.
All right.
If you need us, call us. I want to say it again. Please don't wait. If you have questions, if you see something that's not right, I don't care where you live, call me. My name's Chris Denham. I'm easy to find. I'll talk to you. I do my best to give you some advice on what direction to go. All right. Happy to do that. All right. Thank you all so much. Appreciate it. Yes, ma'am.
Couple other things I just wanted to mention. I know we touched on positive pay. Tanya mentioned that. What we see a lot is a lot of our business customers maybe don't realize when they have check fraud that it's not the same thing as having like credit card fraud. So if you have a dispute on your credit card, it's a pretty easy process. You call up, you say, hey, I didn't do this. They investigate it, you usually get your money back. That doesn't work the same way for business checks. It's a much different process. So like she was saying earlier, catching it early is key. So like with positive pay, what it does is it allows you to say, okay, I've issued these checks and I've authorized these ACH items to hit my account, credit or debit. And if you actually issued those things just go right on through the account because it knows you're okay with that. But if something happens like with those checks being stolen, that's what we were seeing a lot of. Where just the payee was changed. And so business customers weren't noticing that. They were like, okay, yeah, we're reconciling 1, 2, 3, 4, $500 check, and they moved on because it cleared for the right amount. But they didn't notice that the payee itself had been altered. And so months go by and that vendor that you were trying to pay calls you and says, hey, I never got my money. And you're like, yeah, you did. It cleared, months ago. And then when they go to look, the payee is different. It's very hard at that point to get your money back. So we try to dispute that with the bank that accepted that, but most of the time these people have opened accounts online and that money is like long gone and we're not able to recover it. So positive pay it really forces you to look at those things. And so you will see those things if it's something you didn't issue. Yes.
My question is, I have read recently not to use anything but black ink when you write a check, because there are people out there that have some kind of, it's not erasable ink, but they can actually change the name on the checks.
Yes.
If it's in any color other than.
Yeah, they're good, they can. Even that's smarter to do that, but yeah, they still can. And you can look at the check and it looks good. Like, it's very difficult to tell. It doesn't look like it's been altered and it'll just go right on through. So the key is really review everything that hits your account to include those payees. Because a lot of times it's not something you've done wrong. You've just mailed a check to your vendor and it got intercepted there.
We have several different people that can check our accounts if there's fraud, our bank, other things that we come up with, which I can't think of right now. But we had a scam that was going on with our Sam's Club credit card. And it was a personal, but we do have other business stuff. But I was contacted by Sam's Club and one other company that we have that checks things. I do most of my stuff on my phone, and I also have something on my phone to use. And so we have different areas that I can get this. And two of our people that we do business with got the same information. You're having this taken out of your account, and I checked the other one, and they sent me something too, telling me, I go, what is it? And they go, it's this, this, and this. And so it helped us to have more than just one situation, because they're both coming at me at the same time.
Right.
So that was really,
And so that's
nice.
what Chris was talking about. Anytime we have a customer that has fraud, we encourage them, whether it's emails that they've received, text messages, turn all of that over to the police department. again, you
Yeah.
may not get results right away, but they can compile that and see, okay, there's a common trend, people's cards are being stolen and compromised at Sam's, or
Right.
they
They
can kind of
took care
drill
of it.
down. to that.
Everybody was alert with us, and Sam's Club took care of it. There was no, I told them I wasn't in that area, and they paid me back whatever they took out of that account, so it was really nice. It gave me a new card.
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, it's always best to get. And
yeah.
sometimes, we do encourage, if you've had fraud, to be safe, to close out your account and get a brand new number.
Yeah.
But with things like positive pay, that helps. And so you don't necessarily, that's a pain. If you're a business owner, to have to close your account, get new checks, set up all the automatics again, that's a lot of work
Yeah.
for the bank and for you. So with positive pay, that helps with that process and would catch those things. What other questions do you all have? Nothing? Okay. Couple things, if you all would look on the back of your survey, there's a couple lucky winners. If you have a picture on the back of your survey, let me know. You get a prize. You get a. You got-
Oh, he does.
Oh, okay. You got ice cream.
Is that a flower?
A gift card, some ice cream, warm weather.
He has a flower.
Okay, you get flowers. Maybe we should have reversed that. You look like you would like ice cream a little more. You want my flowers.
I don't know if he
Anybody
likes
else?
it.
Oh, you got flowers?
Oh, that's pretty.
Anybody
Ice
else?
cream.
Ice cream.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Very cool.
Yeah. Lucky. Okay, any more questions for our speakers before we wrap up?
I know I have my business card up here, if anyone would want it, feel free. I can't always be much like
Yeah, we've
we were
got,
talking about. If you have questions or concerns, or there's, hey, what do you think about, I'll be happy to direct you if I don't have the answer.
I know several of you all are Magnolia Bank customers, and if so, we really, really appreciate your business. So thank you. If you're not, we would love to talk to you about partnering with you. Even if you are a customer, just remember that we're happy to come out. If you are interested in demoing Positive Pay, we can come out, sit down with you, show you what that looks like. Probably takes about 30 minutes or so and show you the process. It's super easy to use. We love coming out to your business. If you also have any needs, like in the community, we will often go to nursing homes or libraries or anything like that and talk about fraud and some of the scams that we're seeing, because unfortunately a lot of the scams are hitting our elderly people. A lot of those romance scams, it's pretty amazing what they'll do. They'll kind of prey on someone who's lonely or recently widowed. They will talk to them for, this is like a long relationship for like 9 months. Was the last one I had. And they get to know their family. They send pictures with AI today. People don't know the difference. They're actually even doing videos with this fraudster. And so they think they fall in love, and then 9 months in, something happens and they have a family member that's really in need and they need money. So then they're trying to wire funds out. They're trying to send gift cards. And it is really hard to convince people that they're not really in love. Like, it is really hard. Like, they do not want to trust their banker. They are really in love. So, just keep that in mind, family members and things like that. Check in on them, because it's happening a lot.
My poor little 93-year-old grandmother has won the Publishers Clearinghouse
Oh,
twice in the last 3 years.
She's really lucky.
Yes, but she's had to go to the bank and wire money, to get that money. Thank goodness the bank, it's a very small town, and the bank people know her and have called my aunt and go, your mother is here. Can you please call her?
So it's helpful if you know your customers and know what's normal for them to watch out. We do try our best to do that. But, sometimes they're
Sometimes they still won't listen.
Yeah, sometimes they don't listen.
And the Publishers Clearinghouse isn't even a thing anymore, is it? Like, they're still trying to, they're still trying to do that.
Is there, yes.
Yeah, I just want to share a few things. If I can remember it now. I was listening to her talking, I can't remember what I was gonna say. Oh, shoot.
Well,
I call that my sometimers, and that happens to
Yeah,
me.
well, yeah.
My
it comes
sometimers
back.
kick
We'll be
sometimes.
around for a while.
Yeah,
but
okay,
if it
okay.
comes
I
back,
think
if you
about
guys
it.
have any questions you all want to ask me privately too, we'll be around. Be happy to talk to you too.
Amanda, she brought up a real good question earlier about the black ink. And one thing that we found out with, if you handwrite a check, use an ink gel pen because the ink gel permeates the fibers of the check and it makes it much harder for anybody to bleach your checks out to change those checks. So ink gel pens if you're gonna handwrite a check.
And if you're a business that takes cash, I would caution you, like years ago, I would only see 100s being counterfeited. And today, like I get 5s, 1s in the bank, like they do it all. So, just make sure that you're, watching out for that as well. But that usually comes in cycles, we'll see trends where that's really like heavy in our area and then it'll kind of simmer down for a while. We get a lot of those passed at like, fast food restaurants, gas stations, things like that, where they kind of go unnoticed. And then customers bring in their deposit and there's counterfeit bills and then they're at a loss with that too, so. Anything else? Any questions?
One thing I noticed, I was getting a lot of credit card breaches for a long time. I mean, like weekly almost. And then I quit putting my PIN number in everywhere. It's just credit card only, and then it stopped. So I think some of this stuff is coming from like Sri Lanka or whoever's doing the processing. Not the company itself, but whoever's doing the processing. They got my card number and the PIN, and they just replicate cards. So.
And banks do have tools so we can see if, our customers have debit card fraud and they're using the same business, and we try to link that, together to try to figure that out. And sometimes if there's been a breach like that, and even though you haven't been compromised, we may reach out to you and say, hey, we realize that this compromise could impact you, and we recommend you get a new number just to play it safe. Okay, well, I think that wraps everything up. If you would just leave your survey, if you don't mind, give us feedback, good, bad, anything that we could do to improve. And thanks to our speakers, Tanya and Chris. And thank you all for joining us. Hopefully you've got some helpful information that you can take back. Thank you all.
Thank you.